The stars shimmered peacefully above the Valari observation station. Inside, Hana watched the monitors with quiet fascination. She had studied the newly discovered human species for months now, reading their broadcasts and trying to understand their strange ways. The Valari had existed for 10,000 years without war, without weapons, without violence. They solved every problem through understanding and telepathic connection. To them, the humans seemed almost alien in their aggressive tendencies. The alarm shattered the silence. Hana's delicate fingers moved across the control panel as warning lights flashed red. Unknown vessels had appeared at the edge of Valari space. They came from the dark regions where no stars existed, emerging like ghosts from the void. She immediately sent a standard greeting message in 17 different languages and mathematical sequences. The Valari had made first contact with 43 species this way. Every time, peace had followed. This time would be different. The response came not in words, but in energy beams. Brilliant green fire cut through space and struck the shield generators. Hana stumbled as the station shook violently. Around her, other Valari fell to the floor, their faces showing an emotion they rarely experienced: terror. She tried to connect telepathically with the attacking ships, reaching out with her mind to find understanding. She found only emptiness, then something worse. A cold, hungry presence that wanted only to consume. "Evacuate!" someone shouted. "Get to the escape pods!" Hana ran through the corridors as explosions tore through the station's hull. She could feel her colleagues dying, their thoughts cutting off one by one as the structure collapsed around them. The Valari had never built emergency systems with real disasters in mind. Why would they? Nothing bad had ever happened. Their escape pods moved slowly, designed for comfort rather than speed. She reached a pod just as another blast ripped through the science wing. Thousands of Valari died instantly. Hana sealed herself inside and launched, watching through the window as the station that had been her home broke apart. The attacking ships were enormous, covered in sharp angles and dark metal. They moved through the debris, firing on anything that moved. She counted 12 escape pods destroyed before her own slipped into faster-than-light travel. 2 days later, Hana stood before the Valari High Council. The grand chamber, usually filled with soft light and gentle music, felt heavy with shock. Jiwoo, the oldest counselor, sat at the center table. His face showed lines that hadn't been there a week ago. "Tell us again what happened," Jiwoo said softly. Hana repeated her story, though everyone had already heard it a dozen times. The council couldn't accept it. How could beings attack without reason, without first trying to communicate? It violated everything the Valari understood about civilization. "Perhaps it was a misunderstanding," suggested one counselor. "We should send another diplomatic mission." "No," Hana said firmly. "I felt their minds. They don't want to talk. They want to destroy and consume. They're not like us. They're not like anyone we've ever met." "Then what do we do?" asked another counselor. "We have no weapons, no military, no way to defend ourselves." The room fell silent. The Valari had advanced technology, but all of it was built for peaceful purposes. Their shields were designed to protect against radiation and asteroids, not weapons. Their ships were fast and efficient, but they had no cannons, no missiles, no defenses against deliberate aggression. "There is one option," said a young counselor named Yuna. She specialized in studying other species. "The humans." The chamber erupted in uncomfortable murmurs. The Valari had discovered Earth just 2 years earlier. The relationship had been tense. Humans seemed obsessed with conflict, always preparing for wars that never came. They built weapons that could destroy planets and trained soldiers for battles they hoped would never happen. The Valari had judged them as primitive and barbaric. "The humans are too violent," argued an elder counselor. We cannot trust them. Can we trust them less than extinction? Yuna asked. Jiwoo raised his hand for silence. He looked older than his 800 years. I have lived through 10,000 years of peace. I never thought I would see this day. But Yuna is right. If we do not act, our species will die. The humans understand violence because they live with it. Perhaps that is what we need now. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Hana volunteered to go to Earth. She had studied humans more than most Valari. She knew their languages and customs. But knowing about humans and meeting them face to face were very different things. The journey took a week. As Hana's ship approached Earth's orbital station, she saw human military vessels everywhere. They moved in formations, weapons ready, shields active. Even in peacetime, they prepared for war. It terrified her and gave her hope at the same time. A human ship approached and sent a docking request. Hana accepted, her heart's beating faster than normal. The airlock opened, and she saw humans for the first time in person. They were taller than she expected, with strong builds and eyes that watched everything carefully. The one in front wore a military uniform covered in symbols she didn't recognize. I am Captain Tae Yang of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge, he said. His voice was deeper than Valari voices, more solid somehow. Welcome to Earth space. We received your distress signal. Your message said your people are under attack. Hana tried to speak, but her voice caught. She was a trained diplomat, but nothing had prepared her for asking for help in war. Finally, she managed to find the words. My people are dying, she said simply. We don't know how to fight. We don't know how to defend ourselves. We need your help. We need humans to teach us how to survive. Tai Yang looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Come aboard, he said. Let's talk about war. The conference room aboard the Horizon's Edge was designed for military briefings. Hana sat uncomfortably in a chair made for human proportions, while Tai Yang pulled up holographic displays. His chief engineer, Dae-hyun, worked at a console nearby, analyzing the data Hana had brought from the destroyed station. These ships, Dae-hyun said, frowning at the screens. They don't use conventional weapons. The energy signature is organic, like they're growing their ships instead of building them. They're called the Krellvax, Hana explained. At least that's what our sensors detected from their communication frequencies. We don't know much else. They attacked without warning and destroyed everything in their path. Tai Yang studied the tactical displays with the eye of someone who had seen real combat. Earth had been peaceful for 50 years, but humans never forgot how to fight. They passed down military knowledge through generations, always preparing for threats that might never come. Now, it seemed, that paranoia was about to save another species. How many worlds do the Valari control? Tae Yang asked. 47 colonies plus our homeworld, Hana replied. Total population of 80 billion. And how many of those can fight? Hana looked down at her hands. None. We don't fight. We never have. Dae-hyun turned from his console, disbelief clear on his face. Never? Not even in self-defense? We resolve conflicts through telepathic understanding. When we connect minds, we feel each other's pain. Violence becomes impossible when you truly understand the other person. But these Krellvax, Tae Yang said carefully. You can't connect with them? Their minds are empty, like a void that only hungers. Hana shivered at the memory. Captain, I need to be honest with you. My people see humans as violent and primitive. Most of the council didn't want to contact you. But we have no choice. If you can't help us, the Valari will cease to exist. Tae Yang was quiet for a moment. Then he stood and walked to the viewport where stars drifted past. Do you know why humans build so many weapons? Why we train soldiers even in peacetime? Because you're aggressive, Hana said. then immediately regretted her words. "I'm sorry. That was rude." "No, it's what most species think." Taeyang smiled sadly. "The truth is more complicated. Humans learned the hard way that the universe isn't always kind. We fought each other for thousands of years before we finally achieved peace on Earth. Those wars taught us something important. Peace is precious because it's fragile, so we stay ready to defend it." "But you make it sound noble," Hana said. "Violence can never be noble." "Maybe not," Dae-hyun interjected. "But protection can be. There's a difference between attacking and defending." Before Hana could respond, an alarm blared through the ship. Taeyang's communication device activated, and a woman's voice came through urgently. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from Valari Colony Thalas 4. They're under attack." Taeyang ran to the bridge with Hana close behind. The main view screen showed a transmission from the colony. Valari civilians fled in panic as Krelvak's ships descended from orbit. Buildings collapsed under weapon fire. The transmission cut off mid-scream. "How long until we can get there?" Taeyang demanded. 17 hours at maximum speed," replied the navigation officer. "That's too long," Hana whispered. "There are 2 million people on that colony." Taeyang made a decision. "Get me Admiral Wu Jin immediately, and prepare the ship for combat speed." Within minutes, Wu Jin's face appeared on the screen. The Admiral was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. He listened to Taeyang's quick report without interruption. "The Valari are requesting military assistance," Taeyang finished. "I recommend we respond." Wu Jin leaned back in his chair. "The Valari have been clear about their opinion of humanity. They've blocked our trade proposals and refused cultural exchanges. Now they want our help?" "Sir, they're being slaughtered," Taeyang said firmly. "Whatever political issues exist, we can't stand by and watch genocide." Hana stepped forward, visible on the transmission. "Admiral, my people were wrong about yours. We judged you without understanding. We thought your weapons made you barbaric, but we were the barbaric ones for looking down on you. Please, we're begging for help." Wu Jin studied her for a long moment. "Captain Taeyang, you're authorized to proceed to Thalas 4. I'm sending Sergeant Sungmin's Special Operations Team and Commander Jia's Fighter Squadron to support you. But understand this, if the Valari want our help, they'll have to accept our methods. War isn't pretty, and we won't apologize for doing what's necessary." "I understand," Hana said quietly. The Horizon's Edge jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing toward the doomed colony. In the weapons bay, Dae-hyun worked with his team to prepare every missile and energy cannon. Human ships were designed for war even if they hoped never to use their weapons. Hana watched the preparations with growing anxiety. In the crew quarters, human soldiers checked their weapons and armor with practiced efficiency. Sung-min, a stern-faced sergeant with scars on his hands, led his team through equipment checks. They moved like a single organism, each person knowing their role perfectly. "First time seeing humans prepare for combat?" Taeyang asked, standing beside her. "It's frightening," Hana admitted. "You're all so calm about it." "We're not calm. We're focused. There's a difference." He looked at his crew with obvious pride. "These people have trained their entire lives for moments like this. They know the cost of violence, and they choose to bear that burden so others don't have to." "I don't understand how you live like this." "You will," Taeyang said softly. "When we reach Thalas 4, you'll see what humans really are, not barbaric. Not violent for the sake of violence. We're protectors, and we're about to show the Krelvaks what happens when they threaten people under our protection." Hana hoped he was right, because in 17 hours, everything would change. The Horizon's Edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Thalas 4 system. What they found made even the experienced human crew go silent. 6 Krelvak ships surrounded the colony, firing systematically at population centers. Escape pods drifted in space, some destroyed, others struggling to reach safety. Debris from Valari civilian ships created a deadly cloud around the planet. "Life signs?" Tae-Yang asked, his voice tight. "Detecting approximately 800,000 survivors on the surface," reported the scanner officer. "Down from 2 million. Hana felt like she couldn't breathe. Over 1 million of her people dead in less than a day. She gripped the railing of the bridge, her legs weak. "Weapons ready," Tae-Yang ordered. "Launch all fighters. Sung-min, prepare your team for possible boarding action. Our priority is protecting the survivors and evacuating as many as possible." "Sir, we're outnumbered 6-1, Dae-hyun warned. "Our ship is powerful, but those Krelvax vessels are twice our size." "Then we'll have to be smarter." Tae-Yang pulled up a tactical display. "Their formation is focused on the planet. They're not expecting resistance. We'll use that." Jia's fighter squadron launched from the horizon's edge, 12 small craft against impossible odds. She led them in a wide arc, coming at the Krelvax ships from their blind side. Her voice came through the communication system, calm despite the danger. "Tiger Squadron, weapons free. Hit their sensor arrays first. Make them blind." The human fighters moved with precision that amazed Hana. They weren't just pilots. They were artists of war. Missiles streaked through space, striking exactly where Jia called targets. 2 Krelvax ships lost their scanning capabilities within seconds. The alien vessels began turning, trying to track these small, fast attackers. That's when Tae-Yang made his move. The horizon's edge dove toward the planet, all weapons firing. Energy beams cut through Krelvax shields, drawing their attention away from the defenseless colony. Return fire hammered the human ship's shields, but Dae-hyun had reinforced them specifically for this kind of fight. "Keep their focus on us," Tae-Yang commanded. "Every second they shoot at us is a second they're not killing civilians." On the surface, Valari survivors watched in confusion as human soldiers appeared in transport ships. Sung-min and his team moved through the ruined cities with military efficiency. They weren't gentle, but they were effective. They grabbed Valari civilians and pushed them toward evacuation craft, shouting orders in voices that demanded obedience. "Move! Move! Move!" Sung-min yelled as a Krelvax beam struck a building nearby. He threw himself over a group of Valari children, his armor absorbing the falling debris. "Get to the transports now!" One Valari tried to go back for belongings. Sung-min grabbed them and physically carried them to safety. "Possessions can be replaced. You cannot. Now go!" In orbit, the battle intensified. One of Jia's fighters took heavy damage, spinning out of control. She watched the pilot eject, then immediately refocused on her mission. There was no time for grief in combat. 2 Krelvax ships moved to intercept the horizon's edge, firing from both sides. "Shields at 40%, Dae-hyun reported. "Reroute power from non-essential systems," Tae-Yang ordered. He turned to Hana, who stood frozen on the bridge. "I need you to do something for me. Contact the Valari survivors on the surface. Tell them to head to coordinates I'm sending you. Tell them humans are there to help." Hana nodded shakily and opened a communication channel. She spoke in her native language, her voice cutting through the panic on the ground. "This is Hana of the Diplomatic Corps. Human forces are here to help evacuate. Please follow their instructions. I know they seem aggressive, but they're trying to save you. Trust them." More Krelvax ships were arriving. 3 more vessels dropped from faster-than-light travel, and Tae-Yang knew they couldn't hold out much longer. But thousands of Valari were still on the ground. "Sir, we need to retreat," urged the tactical officer. "Not yet," Tae-Yang said firmly. "Not while people are still down there." Jia's squadron was down to 8 fighters now. They darted between the massive Krelvax ships like insects, impossible to hit but too small to do real damage. But they didn't need to win. They just needed to buy time. On the surface, Sung-min's team loaded the last transport with survivors. a Krelvax ground unit appeared, strange biomechanical creatures that moved like predators. Sungmin's team formed a defensive line between the aliens and the transport. "Get them out of here!" Sungmin shouted to the pilot. "We'll hold the line!" The human soldiers opened fire with weapons designed to stop living targets. The Krelvax fell, but more kept coming. One of Sungmin's soldiers went down, then another, but the transport lifted off, carrying 200 Valari to safety. "Sungmin, we're pulling you out!" Taeyang's voice crackled through the communication system. "Get to the extraction point now." "Negative, sir. Still have civilians in Sector 7. "That's an order, Sergeant." Sungmin looked at his remaining team members, 3 soldiers against dozens of Krelvax. But in Sector 7, 50 Valari hid in a collapsed building. "With respect, sir, that's not happening." Taeyang closed his eyes briefly, then made a decision that would haunt him. "All ships, prepare to retreat. Daehyun, launch every missile we have at those Krelvax ground positions, full spread." "But Sungmin's team is still down there," Daehyun protested. "I know." Taeyang's voice was cold, hiding his pain. "Do it." The missiles streaked down from orbit, massive explosions tearing through the Krelvax ground forces. In those crucial seconds, Sungmin and his team grabbed the 50 civilians and ran. They reached the extraction point just as a transport ship dove through the flames to grab them. The Horizon's Edge and its fighters jumped to faster-than-light speed just as the Krelvax ships were about to overwhelm them. They left behind a burning colony, but they'd saved 40,000 Valari lives. In the medical bay, Hana found Sungmin being treated for burns. His armor was scorched black. She stood there, not knowing what to say to someone who had nearly died to save her people. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why risk your life for strangers?" Sungmin looked up at her, exhausted but somehow at peace. "Because someone has to," he said simply. "Because if we only protected people we knew, we wouldn't be much better than the Krelvax." Hana finally understood. Humans weren't violent because they enjoyed it. They were capable of violence because sometimes protection required it. They carried that terrible burden so others could remain innocent. The joint fleet assembled near the Valari homeworld. 50 Valari ships, sleek and beautiful but never designed for combat, floated alongside 20 human vessels that looked brutal by comparison. In the command center aboard the largest Valari station, Admiral Wu Jin studied the latest intelligence with Jiwoo and other leaders from both species. "The Krelvax have taken 8 more colonies," Wu Jin said grimly. "At this rate, they'll reach your homeworld in 3 weeks. "We have to fight them," Jiwoo said, though the words sounded wrong in his mouth. 10,000 years of peace had made such sentences feel alien. Hana stood beside Taeyang, watching the tactical displays. She had learned much in the past weeks. Daehyun had taught her basic military strategy. Sungmin had shown her how soldiers thought, how they turned fear into focus. But most importantly, Taeyang had taught her that sometimes the only way to protect life was to be willing to take it. Yuna, the Valari scientist, activated a holographic projection. "I've analyzed all our encounters with the Krelvax. They move with perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. I believe they have a central command structure, probably a Nexus ship that coordinates their entire fleet." "Can we locate it?" Wu Jin asked. "I can track their communication patterns," said Hyun-woo, a Valari engineer who had been working closely with Daehyun. "Give me time, and I can find the source." It took 2 days, but Hyun-woo succeeded. The Nexus ship sat deep in Krelvax-controlled space, surrounded by their most powerful vessels. The hologram showed a massive biological structure, more creature than machine, pulsing with strange energy. "We destroy that and their fleet loses coordination," Wu Jin said. "They'll become vulnerable." "But how do we reach it?" Ji-woo asked. They have 50 ships protecting that location. We create a diversion, Tae-yang suggested. A large force attacks from one direction, while a small strike team infiltrates from another. The Valari shields are more advanced than ours. If Hyunwoo and Daehyun can adapt them for stealth, a small ship might slip through undetected. It's a suicide mission, Woo-jin said bluntly. Even if you reach the Nexus, you'll never escape. Then we make sure whoever goes knows what they're signing up for, Tae-yang replied. He looked directly at Woo-jin. I volunteer the Horizon's Edge. No, Hana said immediately. If anyone should risk their lives, it should be Valari. This is our war. With respect, Tae-yang said gently. Your people don't know how to fight. This requires soldiers. Then I'm coming with you, Hana insisted. You'll need someone who understands Valari technology to interface with your systems. Tai-yang started to argue, but Woo-jin interrupted. She's right. This is a joint operation. Both species should be represented. The next 3 days were spent in frantic preparation. Daehyun and Hyunwoo worked almost without sleep, modifying the Horizon's Edge with Valari stealth technology. The two engineers developed an unexpected friendship, communicating more through shared understanding of machines than words. When Daehyun struggled with an energy flow problem, Hyunwoo solved it with an elegant solution that made the human laugh with delight. Your technology is beautiful, Daehyun admitted. All our stuff is built for function over form. But you make things that are both efficient and artistic. And your designs are incredibly resilient, Hyunwoo replied. Everything has backup systems and redundancies. You prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Jia and her remaining pilots prepared their fighters for one more battle. She gathered her squadron in the briefing room, looking at faces that showed the strain of constant combat. Some were barely 20 years old. Others had families waiting at home. All of them were exhausted. I won't lie to you, she said. This is going to be the hardest fight yet. Our job is to keep the Krelvax busy while Captain Tae-yang reaches the Nexus. Some of us won't make it back. Anyone who wants to sit this one out can do so with no judgment. No one moved. All right then, Jia said with a small smile. Let's go save the galaxy. The day of the attack arrived. The joint fleet jumped to the Krelvax territory, immediately engaging their ships in fierce combat. Explosions lit up space as human and Valari vessels worked together. The Valari provided superior shields and sensors, while human ships delivered overwhelming firepower. They fought with desperate courage, buying every second they could. Meanwhile, the Horizon's Edge slipped through the chaos. The stealth modifications worked perfectly. Krelvax sensors passed right over them. Aboard the ship, Tae-yang, Hana, Daehyun, and Sung-min's team prepared for what came next. They would need to board the Nexus, plant explosives, and escape before it detonated. Approaching the Nexus, reported the pilot. We're detecting heavy bioorganic defenses. They'll spot us once we get closer. Then we go in fast and hard, Tae-yang decided. All power to forward shields. Hana, you ready? Hana checked the explosives one more time. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice was steady. Ready. The Horizon's Edge dropped its stealth and accelerated directly toward the Nexus. Immediately, Krelvax ships turned to intercept. Energy beams hammered their shields. An explosion rocked the ship, sending Hana crashing into a wall. Shields failing! Someone shouted. Just get us close enough to board! Tae-yang yelled back. They crashed into the Nexus structure, and Sung-min's team cut through the hull with plasma torches. Inside was a nightmare of organic corridors pulsing with alien life. Krelvax defenders appeared, and the human soldiers opened fire. Hana followed behind them, carrying the explosives and trying not to think about the creatures dying around her. Daehyun took a hit protecting Hyunwoo from an energy blast. He went down hard, his chest plate smoking. Hyunwoo dragged him to cover, refusing to leave his friend behind. Keep going, Daehyun gasped. Finish the mission. They fought deeper into the nexus until they reached the central chamber. A massive organic brain pulsed with light, coordinating the entire Krelvax fleet. Tae-Yang and Hana planted the explosives while Sungmin's team held the entrance. "Charges set," Tae-Yang reported. "Everyone back to the ship." They ran, carrying their wounded. Krelvax poured in from every direction. Sungmin and his soldiers formed a rear guard, falling back slowly while maintaining fire. They reached the horizon's edge and sealed the hatches just as the nexus began to tear itself apart. "Go! Go! Go!" Tae-Yang shouted. The ship pulled away as the nexus exploded behind them. The shockwave caught them, sending the horizon's edge spinning out of control. But they were alive, and the mission was complete. The Valari medical facility had never seen injuries like these before. For 10,000 years, their doctors had treated illnesses and accidents, never battle wounds. Now, human and Valari medical staff worked side by side, learning from each other as they saved lives that war had endangered. Dae-Hyun lay in a healing pod, his chest wrapped in advanced Valari medical technology that was slowly repairing the damage from the energy blast. Hyunwoo sat beside him, refusing to leave. The Valari engineer had learned something about loyalty from humans, about standing by those who had stood by you. "You should rest," a nurse told Hyunwoo. "He will be fine. Our technology is very advanced." "I know," Hyunwoo replied. "But he didn't leave me behind when he could have. I won't leave him now." In orbit around the Valari homeworld, the joint fleet celebrated a victory that felt hollow. The Krelvax fleet had collapsed into chaos when their nexus was destroyed. Without central coordination, they had retreated into the dark spaces between stars. The Valari were safe, but the cost had been enormous. 8 colonies destroyed, 12 million dead. The price of survival had been paid in Valari blood. Hana stood on an observation deck of the Valari flagship, watching human and Valari ships drift together in space. Tae-Yang found her there, standing silently in the starlight. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "I keep seeing their faces," Hana said quietly. "The people we couldn't save, the soldiers who died protecting us. I used to think violence was simple, that it was always wrong. Now I understand it's more complicated." "It is," Tae-Yang agreed. "Violence is always terrible. But sometimes refusing to fight means allowing something worse to happen. That's the burden warriors carry. We do terrible things so others don't have to." "Is it worth it?" Hana asked. "Living with those memories?" Tae-Yang looked out at the stars. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the faces of people I couldn't save. Every decision that cost lives haunts me. But then I think about the people who are alive because we fought. The children who will grow up because we stood between them and monsters. Yes, it's worth it. It has to be." The next day, the Valari Council convened a special ceremony. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from both species. Jiwoo stood at the center, looking older, but somehow stronger than before. War had changed the Valari, forced them to confront uncomfortable truths about the universe. "For 10,000 years, Jiwoo began, we believed peace came from rejecting violence completely. We looked down on species like humanity who maintained military forces. We called them barbaric, primitive, warlike. We were wrong." The chamber fell silent. Admitting error was not difficult for Valari, who valued truth above pride. But this error had nearly cost them everything. "We understand now that the capacity for violence and the choice to use it are different things," Jiwoo continued. "Humans are not violent because they enjoy destruction. They are warriors because someone must be willing to stand against those who would harm the innocent. They carry a burden we refuse to acknowledge even existed." He turned to face Admiral Wu Jin. "On behalf of the Valari Collective, I apologize for our arrogance and our judgment. We dismissed your culture without understanding it. We mocked your preparations for war without realizing those preparations would save our entire species. Wu Jin stood slowly. We accept your apology, though it isn't necessary. Humans learned about war through terrible experience. We don't judge you for taking a different path. We only ask that you understand why we took ours. We propose a permanent alliance, Jiwoo said. The Valari will establish a defensive force trained by human military advisors. We will share our technology, and you will teach us how to protect ourselves. Together, we will be stronger than either species alone. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in their history, the Valari would have soldiers. It would change their culture forever, but survival demanded change. Tai Yang accepted a position as chief military advisor to the Valari. Hana would serve as cultural liaison, bridging the gap between two very different civilizations. They stood together as the treaty was signed, representatives of a new kind of cooperation. In the weeks that followed, the transformation began. Young Valari volunteered for the new defense force. Sungmin trained the first recruits, teaching them not just how to fight, but why fighting sometimes became necessary. His classes were tough, but patient, pushing the Valari beyond what they thought possible while respecting their fundamental values. Remember, he told a class of recruits, the goal is never to seek violence. The goal is to protect those who cannot protect themselves. You're not becoming killers. You're becoming guardians. Jia taught Valari pilots how to fly combat maneuvers. The Valari natural grace combined with human tactical doctrine created something remarkable. Within months, the joint squadrons were more effective than either species alone. Dae-hyun recovered fully, thanks to Valari medical technology. He and Hyunwoo continued working together, creating hybrid technology that combined human resilience with Valari elegance. Their friendship became a symbol of what the alliance could achieve. Yuna published her research on human psychology, revolutionizing how Valari understood other species. Her central thesis was simple but profound. Humans possessed both the capacity for extreme violence and extreme compassion. They were warriors and protectors, destroyers and builders. They were not barbaric. They were balanced in a way the Valari had never needed to be. 3 months after the war ended, a new transmission reached Valari space. Another peaceful species, the Dalari, had been attacked by unknown invaders. Their message was desperate, sent to anyone who might hear. In the command center, Tai Yang and Hana looked at each other. They both knew what this meant. The Dalari have no military, Hana said. They're like we used to be. Then we help them, Tai Yang replied simply. That's what this alliance is for. Admiral Wu Jin appeared on the communication screen. Preparing a response fleet now. How many Valari ships can you contribute? 10, Hana said without hesitation. With Valari human mixed crews. Make it 15, Jiwoo added, joining the conversation. The Dalari need to see that peace-loving species can learn to defend themselves. We'll be that example. The fleet assembled quickly. Human warships and Valari vessels, flying side by side toward another species in need. Sungmin's team checked their equipment. Jia's squadron ran pre-flight checks. Dae-hyun and Hyun-woo made final adjustments to the ship's systems. Standing on the bridge of the new flagship, a joint Valari human vessel, Hana watched the fleet prepare to jump. She thought about how much had changed. The Valari had lost their innocence, but gained something more valuable, the ability to protect what they loved. Ready? Tae-young asked beside her. Ready, Hana confirmed. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing toward another war, another chance to prove that peace was worth fighting for. Behind them, the Valari homeworld glowed peacefully in space, protected now not by ignorance of violence, but by the willingness to face it when necessary. Humans had taught the Valari a hard lesson, that peace was not the absence of warriors, but the presence of those willing to become warriors to protect it.